Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. I want you to imagine our universe for a second as an infinite library. It's essentially a cosmic detective story where we're searching through these endless dark shelves for a completely unwritten, paradigm-shifting theory of physics. Today, we are diving deep into a framework called Weaving Genesis. It's this incredible multi-agent AI pipeline designed to do exactly that, hunt down the completely unknown laws of reality. So here is our roadmap for today. First, the unwritten physics book. Second, mapping the quantum void. Third, forging new physics laws. Fourth, stress testing the universe. Fifth, real-world experiments. And finally, number 6, the final verdict. Let's just get right into it.
Section 1. The unwritten physics book. We're starting our quest right here, where an AI system actually acts as a sort of topological navigator, charting a course through the space of all possible theories.
The source material introduces this absolutely wild concept called the Hilbert-Babel manifold. You're probably familiar with Jorge Luis Borges' famous Library of Babel, right? Well, imagine that, but for physics. All currently published human physics, everything from Newton to Einstein up through quantum mechanics, occupies just this tiny, finite little corner of the library. But this system uses a specialized literature agent to search the vast, totally unexplored voids of this manifold for entirely new knowledge. The really cool part? It explicitly avoids what has already been written, specifically so it can discover entirely new paradigms, rather than just tweaking old ones.
Moving right along. Section 2. Mapping the quantum void. This is where the system gets to work and actively locates an entirely new paradigm that doesn't just rehash our old ideas. That protocol successfully generated this, the entropic geometry of non-local Chrono manifolds. I know, it's a mouthful, but its core claim is just mind-bending. It argues that space-time isn't a fundamental fabric at all. Instead, it's an emergent macroscopic projection, kind of like a hologram, that is completely driven by underlying quantum entanglement.
Which brings us to Section 3, forging new physics laws. We've got the overarching concept to translate those wild ideas into rigorous, testable math.
This intense math is anchored to 3 foundational axioms. Axiom 1 is informational pre-geometry. This tells us physical reality is built from pure information, so space-time itself is just a projection of underlying quantum bits. Axiom 2 is chrono-entropic phase transitions, which dictates that the actual flow of time is governed by the shifting entropy of that entanglement. And the third is non-abelian gauge symmetry, which essentially connects that flow of entropy directly to non-local wormhole threads.
Let's compare standard gravity to this new theory, because this is where it gets incredibly cool. Under standard general relativity, as you know, black holes can form these infinite singularities, points where the math just completely falls apart. But under this new framework, when entropy hits a critical threshold near the center of a black hole, the signature of space and time actually flips. It turns into a purely spatial state, which topologically eliminates the possibility of a singularity ever forming in the first place.
Next up, Section 4, stress testing the universe. Because a theory can look absolutely beautiful on a whiteboard, but none survive without a massive stress test. Here, the framework simulation agent converts those continuous equations into discrete grids for high-performance computing.
This numerical validation suite put the theory through some truly extreme conditions. It mapped the spacetime onto a 4-dimensional lattice and successfully resolved notorious mathematical roadblocks. Like, it completely fixed the complex Langevin stochastic sign problem to keep the simulation stable. And the standout result? When the supercomputers simulated a collapsing black hole, instead of forming an infinitely dense point, the core gracefully bounced. It computationally proved that singularities are entirely avoided.
All right, Section 5, real-world experiments. It is time to transition away from theoretical computer simulations and step into the physical world using the experiment plan agent.
Which naturally leads us to the ultimate question: how do we know if any of this is actually real? All this elegant math means literally nothing if we can't prove it in the lab. Physics absolutely requires falsifiable predictions.
So the system proposes 3 exact, completely falsifiable tests. First, in macroscopic optomechanical labs, it predicts a very specific nonlinear phase jitter, an actual measurable physical flutter. Second, when looking at the cosmic microwave background, it expects to find a unique, non-Gaussian pattern in the polarized light of the early universe. And third, it predicts that light from distant gamma-ray bursts will actually arrive at slightly different times depending on its energy.
And listen to this. The system didn't just guess or offer a vague idea. It generated a highly specific number for that cosmic microwave background parameter, 4.12, plus or minus 0.05. This is an exact, concrete, mathematical target that scientists can go out and hunt for in space observatory data right this second.
And of course, to confirm a decisive discovery, the system sets the absolute gold standard, greater than a 5 sigma threshold of joint statistical significance. That means there's a less than 1 in a million chance of this just being a fluke. We need overwhelming, undeniable empirical proof before we rewrite the physics textbooks.
Finally, Section 6, the final verdict. This is the statistical framework that is ultimately going to pass judgment on this newly discovered theory. The Bayesian decision matrix they use is strict. If the experimental data gives us a log Bayes factor of less than -5, the theory is strictly falsified, thrown out in favor of standard general relativity. Between -5 and 5, the data is just inconclusive. But if it's greater than 5, we have a confirmed paradigm shift. And over 10, that is a decisive discovery. This AI-generated new book of physics is perfectly poised to be either verified or just ruthlessly destroyed by empirical science.
I really want to leave you with this final, honestly provocative thought from the source text. Imagine a universe where the fabric of reality itself isn't a continuous canvas at all, but is fundamentally made of pure, entangled information. If this AI framework is right, we aren't just living in space and time, we are quite literally living inside a macroscopic projection of quantum data. The unwritten laws of physics are out there in the infinite library, just waiting to be found. The real question is, are we ready to read them?